So when it comes to training for triathlons, there's a lot of gear that you're gonna need. There's a lot of gear that you might think would be cool to have. There's a lot of gear that for most of us, it's not gonna make a difference. So in this week's video, I'm gonna walk you through the gear that I use on an everyday basis. I'm gonna break it up into the stuff that I think is the essentials and the stuff that is nice to have. And I'll even throw some stuff in there that I have that most people might not need. However, if you're chasing that like next level for yourself or within a race, it's fun to have. So let's hop into this week. We're gonna go hit some training sessions. Let's talk about gear. So when it comes to the gear that I use on a daily basis, there are a couple things that go between all of the sports and activities and things that you could do outside. And really only one of these is in my head necessarily like an essential thing. Most of the other stuff you will have. However, the one thing that I would say is essential is a watch. This is the Garmin Forerunner 955. Garmin makes fantastic watches. I like them. You can also get the same thing out of an Apple Watch, Samsung Watch, a Coros, anything like that. But something to track your activities on. Helps you know your pace when you're running, your pace when you're biking, things like that. So have a watch, and then everything else you probably already have laying around for the most part, and then some of them are just nice to have. So next up is going to be some sunglasses. These are Roka sunglasses. I wear these on every single run I go on, unless it's early in the morning, and every single bike I go on. I really like these sunglasses, and yeah, I wear them all the time. And then we've got a pair of headphones. I used to run and bike in AirPods. However, if you're running near the road or riding on the road, a pair of open ear headphones like the Shocks are fantastic. They let you hear what's going on around you. I highly recommend the Shocks. I love them. The only thing is that if you are riding fast on the bike and it is windy, sometimes it's hard to hear what's playing through them. However, these are fantastic. And then a hat or a headband is something that is optional. I only typically use these if it's really cold outside or really hot out. The hat and headband both have pretty much the same effect. Keep sweat out of the eyes. And then for the hat, the visor is nice. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference. I use those pretty much like right now it's 95 to 100 degrees outside. If I'm running in the afternoons or mornings, it's like 80. So I'm wearing a hat or a headband to keep the sweat out of my face. And then the last two are definitely optional, and I'll explain this one. This is a heart rate monitor. Your watch has a heart rate monitor on it. However, it's not technically the most accurate form of heart rate reading, especially during activities. It's great for, when you're walking around the house or sleeping. It just does a great job during that. But when you're moving during activities, it's not the most accurate. So if you are interested in a heart rate monitor, this is the Garmin HRM Pro Plus. I wear it on all of my bikes, all of my runs, and then if I'm swimming with a wetsuit, I wear this underneath it. Can't swim with this without a wetsuit because it'll just slide down your waist. But I like this one. There's also armband style, and the point for it is just to get a more accurate heart rate reading throughout your workouts. And last but not least, slight plug is high strips. I use these on a lot of my harder workouts, my long rides, my brick workouts, my runs. These are fantastic. I have a hard time breathing through my nose, especially during a workout. Like when my heart rate gets even a little bit elevated and I try to breathe through my nose, it just closes up. However, these are fantastic. I put one of these on and I'm able to breathe through my nose up until you get into like that high aerobic heart rate where you're just naturally are gonna have to start breathing from your mouth. I wore these during my 70.3 in Chattanooga a couple months ago, and it stayed on throughout the entire race. I put it on an hour before the swim and I took it off after I was done, and it was still stuck on there very well. So high strips, if you're interested, you can use the code Barton or you can check the link in my bio. Yeah, so when it comes to the gear that I use throughout all of the disciplines that I'm training right now, that's pretty much what I use. And we're gonna hop into the specifics of what I use for the run, bike, and swim as we go throughout the week and knock out some of those workouts. But I'm hitting the track workout in the morning, and yeah, it's gonna be a good time. It's currently 6:20 a.m. It is Tuesday morning. I'm at the track and I'm gonna knock out an 8x1K workout. 2 weeks ago I did 5x1 mile at like a 6:30-ish pace. I'm trying to push the pace a little bit, so I'm doing 8x1K, shooting for around like 6:05 per mile. So we're gonna knock it out, and then I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the gear that I use on an everyday basis when it comes to running. Just wrapped up mile warm-up, throwing on my Nike Zoom flies. About to take off with 8 1K intervals, 90 seconds rest in between. Goal pace is in between like 6 and 6:20 per mile. We'll see how it goes. Have a feeling it could hurt or it could feel good, but we'll see. Just wrapped up the 8th interval. Super happy with how those went. It was tough getting towards the end, but knocked them out. I'm about to put my Brooks back on, run 1 more mile, have a cool down, and yeah, that'll be it for the workout this morning. Wrapped up the track workout. Again, it was 8x1K, 90 seconds rest in between. Took a little bit more of a breather in between the 4th and 5th one. Just split it in half and took probably a 2.5 to 3 minute recovery instead of 90 seconds. Total distance was 8.02 miles, average heart rate 154, average pace 7:08. Total time 57 minutes. And I'm super pumped. I've never done a 1K interval of any sorts before, so that was cool to do that. Like interval 6 through 8 were rough, but other than that, it felt good. All of the 1Ks were under 3:45. So overall, I'm super pumped. I was able to hit really close to 5K pace for all of the 1K intervals, and yeah, we finished strong. But with that being said, I'm gonna walk y'all through a couple of the necessity items that I think you need for running, as well as some of the just like the stuff that you don't really need, but it helps out. So the first thing I'm gonna hit on are some of the necessities for when it comes to running. And number one, you're gonna want a good trainer. These are the Brooks Glycerin 22s. These are my favorite shoes that I've found for running in, especially for just everyday miles, long runs, some tempo, threshold work, everything in between. You need a good shoe that fits you. A lot of running stores nowadays will let you come in and they'll actually do like an examination of your gait, your foot, if you pronate or whatever the other one is. But they can put you in a shoe that works for you. But find something that works and stick to it. I'm not rich, so I don't buy a bunch of shoes. I go with what I know works. Next up on the list of things that I think you need is something to hold your phone. And this is a really bad time. I used to have a belt that would hold my phone. It broke just the other day, so I threw it away. But get you a running belt. I'm not a big fan of like the arm straps. I've never even used one, but I've worn one once years ago. Absolutely hated it. Get you something that goes around the waist that can hold your phone, keys. They make belts that hold water bottles, gels, all of the above. But if I don't have a belt, I'll typically wear shorts that have a pocket in them, or I'll wear these Nike Pros underneath my running shorts that have pockets in them. I also have long running tights for the winter time that have side pockets in them. So get you something to hold your phone. And when it comes to holding things, I really recommend getting yourself a handheld water bottle, especially if you live somewhere where it is extremely hot during the summer, or if it's just remote and there's not like a place that you can stop and grab a sip of water on your run. For things like track workouts, a regular water bottle is fine because you're running in a circle right next to your water bottle the whole time. However, on long runs over like 10 miles, or if it's extremely hot outside, I will bring this. It holds 750 milliliters of water, and like you can put carb powder in it. It's just a great thing to have. It helps you stay hydrated, helps limit the risk of dehydration on runs. So get you a handheld water bottle. Last thing when it comes to items that I think are necessities is a good pair of running shorts. And just like when it comes to shoes, I'm not gonna go spend a ton of money on shorts just for the brand or whatnot. So these are the Gymshark sport shorts. I bought them on Black Friday like a year ago. They are 5-inch inseam. They are absolutely phenomenal. I wear them pretty much all summer. I wear them on almost all of my runs. I really like the Gymshark stuff. Again, it's hard for me to kind of justify spending $50 on shorts. I bought all of these like sub $25. I used to run in just the regular Arrival shorts as well. Absolutely love Gymshark, the lower end Gymshark stuff for the budget friendliness of them. And yeah, they're really comfortable. I enjoy them. And then you can also get a running shirt. Typically, if it's the summertime, I don't run with a shirt. It makes me feel constricted a lot of times when I run with a shirt on. However, for races and things, I do have like this race top from Nike that I will wear for races, or if it's a little cooler out and I want just a little bit of coverage on my torso. And then in the wintertime, I have a bunch of long sleeve t-shirts that are thin athletic material that work well. But you do what's most comfortable for you. But the shorts is a big deal. Get yourself a pair of shorts that works for you. And when it comes to running is one of the easiest activities that you could get out and do, especially when it comes to buying things that might be cool to have, but aren't necessarily like a necessity. I mean, it's the simplest sport. You need a decent pair of shoes, decent pair of shorts, and that's about it. Outside of like a running watch, a heart rate monitor, a hat for wearing to the track, you pretty much have everything you need at your house probably right now. So outside of the necessity items that I just talked about, as well as like my everyday use items, the only thing that I could think of that is nice to have is a pair of race day shoes or like a carbon pair of trainers. So these are the Nike Zoom Flies. I ran my first half marathon and full marathon in these shoes. They are carbon plated. I like these a lot. I have moved these to my speed workout and like track workout shoes. So for all of my 1K intervals that I did this morning, I wore the Zoom Flies. For race day, I have a pair of Nike Alpha Flies that I have only worn in the half marathon at the end of my 70.3 in May. So I don't have a ton of experience with the Alpha Flies. I do like them a lot. They're really light, really breathable, really snappy. But that's pretty much the only thing that I could think of that you don't have to have, but if it benefits you, it is definitely nice to have, is a pair of carbon plated shoes or training shoes for race day or training. Other than that, running's pretty straightforward. You can get outside, go do it. That's why I think that it's one of my favorite sports, is because you can just hop out the door with the bare minimum and go run, get a good cardio session in. And with that being said, I'm gonna go get some coffee. I have a swim workout in the morning, and I'm gonna show y'all what I typically use for open water swims as well as pool swims. One thing that I forgot to mention when it comes to running is socks. Socks play a big difference. You can get away with running in cotton socks. I used to run all of my easy runs wearing cotton socks, just like the typical ones that you would just buy in like a 12-pack at Walmart. However, running socks do help a lot. For race day and speed work, I like to wear light features. Swiftwick makes good socks. OS First is what I wore this morning. Brooks also makes a really good pair of running socks that are more on the budget friendly side, that I have a couple pairs of that I will run like my easier runs in. Good pair of socks can go a long way, and that definitely falls into what I would say would be like a necessary category. It's kind of right there on that line. Like, you don't have to run in a specific running sock. However, if you're running a lot, it makes a big difference. It is Wednesday morning. It is currently 6:10 a.m.
just pulled up to the pool. I'm gonna go knock out a swim workout this morning. This is the interval swim of the week, so I did an open water swim on Monday, and then I'm gonna come in here, knock out 3,000 yards, hit some drill work, hit some speed work, hit some strength and like technique. Kind of all encompassing is this swim. I'm gonna do the same workout that I did last week. It's gonna be 200 warm, 300 yards of fingertip drag drill, 100 easy, 300 yards of catch-up drill, 100 easy. Then we go into the main set, 3x200 build, 100 easy, 100 hard. 4x100 at 140, repeat on 2, 4x50 at 40, repeat on 1, 4x25 at 20, repeat on 30. And then we go into the cool down, 2x100 meter pool, and then 3x100 pool and paddles, 200 cool down, 3,000 yards. I'm at the point where I think I'm gonna add another swim day to the week. That will be like a recovery / form focus. Probably would just be like, if I'm able to do it this week scheduling wise, it would probably be like 600 to 800 yards. Just go to the pool, do some form work, do some recovery, just laps. But I'm trying to get the swim volume up to try to get faster at the swim for the race. And I think I'm just gonna have to add another swim day. But I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna knock out a swim. When I'm done, I'll walk you through some of the gear that I use when it comes to being at the pool or the lake. Just wrapped up the swim workout. Honestly, went great. Did 3,000 yards. Overall, it felt good. The drill work felt good. I will say my lats were feeling pretty sore today for some reason, but it's all right. 3,000 yards, 51 minutes. Average pace was 142. Yeah. With that being said, let's talk about some of the gear that you need to start swimming. And I'll start with the essentials. And really, it's two things. You need a swim cap and you need a pair of goggles. And I guess you need something to swim in. So that is what these are. But let's talk about the swim caps and goggles first. So I would recommend, if you're starting out, go on Amazon, get just like a black or whatever color you want, Speedo swim cap. They are very good quality. They are thicker than like any race swim cap you would get. So this is what I typically use for most of my swims, is just like a $12 swim cap off of Amazon. You can also use, if you've done a race or have been given one, you can use these. These will rip after a while though. They're just thinner, cheaper to mass produce for a race. But get yourself a swim cap. It helps with aerodynamics in the water, and it helps you get used to it. Next would be a pair of goggles. If you're swimming in the pool, I recommend getting a clear or blue or like a light tint goggles. If you are doing open water swims, I would suggest getting a darker tint goggle. I literally bought these, and there was a white pair from Sam's for like, I think $20 for the 3-pack of these goggles. I use these a lot. I have a pair of Roca R1 goggles that I typically reserve for race day. I've actually only worn them once, and it was during Chattanooga 70.3. But these goggles do fantastic. I've been using these for almost a year now, and they definitely are getting to a point where they need to be replaced. The anti-fog doesn't work in them very well. I have to spend a bunch of time clearing the goggles, but they do exactly what I need them to do. Next up, bathing suits. This is also a $10 pair of jammers from Amazon. I'm not, especially when it comes to swimming, I'm not gonna go drop, $60 to $100 on a pair of jammers to wear at the pool when I go once a week, and really only when I'm training. So yeah, those do fine for me. I did learn with that specific pair, don't throw them in the washer. They turn like gray very quickly. They lose all of their black. Oh, the dryer, don't throw them in the dryer. But get yourself something to swim in. Honestly, you can go in swim trunks if you want to. That would be just fine. Next up is kind of more open water swim related, and this is an essential, I would say, if you're open water swimming. It is like a pool behind buoy. You can just inflate it up when you get to the lake. You can take this, buckle it around your waist, and you drag this behind you. It is a flotation device because it is enough to keep you afloat if you have an emergency on the water and you need to, keep yourself afloat. You can grab onto this, hold yourself afloat. It also just lets boaters know that you are there. So get yourself this. This was $10 on Amazon, and I've used it for a year now, and it's fantastic. Next up are some of the optional items, I would say. The first two I do not have with me, but the pool has them that I go to. Very good chance that the pool you will go to has them as well, and that's going to be a pool buoy and a kickboard. The pool buoy helps you isolate your upper body movement without having to worry about keeping your legs afloat. So you put it between your legs, you can swim like that. It's really, really just helpful for isolating on that catch and pull. And then the next is the kickboard that helps you kick. I'm gonna be completely honest, I have used a kickboard maybe 3 times. But if that's something that you wanna use, so be it. Very good chance the pool that you would go to will have a couple of those. And then the next couple of things are just things that are kind of nice to have, I guess, a little bit more of if you're a beginner, you don't super need this to start. First would be a pair of paddles. I just bought these a couple months ago for this prep. I do think they have helped me a lot. They identified some downsides or like some negative things that I was doing in my form. They helped me fix it. They also help build your lat strength on your pool. I've been really liking to use paddles. Those are also from Amazon. And then the last one is going to be something to wear to listen to music. This is a pair of goggles that I got sent from TikTok that have a pair of earbuds and an MP3 player built into them. Honestly, I don't use them that much. I do think that having music during a swim or a podcast or something would be super sick. However, I'm just not going to fork out the money to buy like the Shocks Open Swims, which is what I would get if I was to get something. I would not buy those goggles. But those goggles do work for like easy swims. However, if you're trying to do anything that incorporates speed, the earbuds fall out. So that's what I use for the swim. I can't think of anything else that I would need to hit on. I'm going to hit on the wetsuit when it comes to like the race day stuff, because the wetsuit kind of falls into like, yeah, you can use it for open water swims, but yeah, you can also use it for race day, but you also don't have to have it for either of those things. So I'm gonna hit on that a little bit when I start talking about the stuff that I use on race day specifically. And with that being said, I'm gonna go get some coffee and I'm gonna show you what I use on the bike later this afternoon. So let's talk about bike gear a little bit. And this is the one sport where I really feel like you can go in like all out and go into severe credit card debt, or you could
play it smart. I like to think that I played it smart, and I'll explain that a little bit. But first off, for biking, I think it's kind of obvious. You're gonna need a bike of some sort. This is a TT bike, specifically made for triathlons. However, you can use a road bike. I have a road bike, somebody is borrowing it right now. You can do triathlons and a lot of training on a road bike. You don't have to have a TT bike, but if you're interested in potentially unlocking the fastest bike splits that you can, having a better run off of the bike just due to geometry of how you're sitting and pedaling and transferring that into the run, TT bike will help you. But first off, you're gonna need a bike. After you get the bike figured out, you're gonna have to have a bike to train on the bike. You're gonna probably want to invest in some bibs. These bibs that I have on now are from Amazon. They are not the most expensive bibs, but they're also not the cheapest. They're from a brand called Surdy Polar. Sorry if I said that wrong. I really enjoy these. They're like $40 for a pair, which for me, that is just about right. I'm not gonna go spend $100 on a pair of bike bibs. You can also get like a pair that is just shorts. These are from the same company as my jersey that I'm wearing, I think. No, these are BA Leaf from Amazon. These aren't bad. I only wear these on shorter rides, however. And then next up is going to be a jersey of some sorts. These are from Bike WA, BICKEWA. I like them. I have this one, and then I also have a dark green bike jersey. Really enjoy them. These are like 20 bucks. I'm not going to be the type of guy to drop $200 on a bike kit. That's me personally. You do however you feel, but get yourself a bib, get yourself a jersey. I would also recommend investing in a pair of socks that are more specific to biking. They're a lot thinner. They feel a lot better on rides. These are a pair that I got from a local bike shop. I also have some from Formula 369 that I like a lot. Bike socks do play a big part. And then last but not least, depending on the pedals that you ride with, you're gonna need a pair of bike shoes, or if you're riding with flat pedals, that'll work. These are my Trek bike shoes. I really like these. They're pretty vented. You can get tri-specific shoes. You can get Velcro shoes. These have a boa on them. And then you're gonna have a set of cleats that come with your pedals so that you can use these for your clip-in or clipless pedals. Like I have a set of Favero power meter pedals on my bike, as you can see, that I clip into. It shows me the wattage. And yeah, so you're gonna need a pair of pedals, whether that be flat pedals and you wear tennis shoes, or a pair of road bike shoes or tri shoes. Now let's talk about some of the other things that you're gonna absolutely need if you are training on the bike. You're gonna need a helmet of some sorts. This is an Oakley Aero 3 road bike helmet. Don't cheap out on the helmet. Get one that is crash rated. That little MIP sticker means that it is crash rated. Yeah, don't play around with safety. That's one thing not to cheap out on, is a good helmet. This next item might be a little obvious as well, but you're gonna need a bike pump to pump up your tires. This is a cheap one that I actually found at like a secondhand retail store that I bought it for 10 bucks. But go to REI or Amazon. I have one from Amazon too that was like 20 bucks. Get you a bike pump and make sure that it can pump up the tubes that you use in your tire. Like my bike uses Presta valves. So make sure that your bike pump can pump up that type of tube. And probably one of the most important things that can help not ruin your day is going to be what I have in this little bottle. This little bottle is where I keep my flat kit. I have a multi-tool in here. This is a cheap one off of Amazon. It has all of the Allen keys, Phillips head screwdriver, everything that you might need to tighten something up on your bike, adjust your derailleurs on the road. Carry a multi-tool with you of some sorts. The next is going to be tubes and a flat kit. So in here I have a CO2 cartridge and a inflator. That's what those look like. This will save your life as well as a tube if you're running tubular tires. If you're running tubeless, You're more bougie than I am, but I have a spare tube, set of tire levers, CO2 cartridge, and the nozzle for the CO2 cartridge on my bike pretty much at all times. The only time I haven't had it, I did have a flat and I had to have somebody come pick me up, and that was a bad day. So get yourself a flat kit and learn how to change the tube in your tire. It'll make the biggest difference in the world. There's a lot of things when it comes to biking that you can definitely spend more money on, but it's not necessary to being able to train or just to do the basics. Like power pedals or a power arm on your crank isn't a necessary addition. It is nice if you want to get into structured outdoor workouts. That is why I purchased them. You can change the cassettes, you can change the gear sets. You can do all sorts of stuff on your bike. However, that's the gear that I think that you need for the bike. You can go into a bunch of different stuff when it comes to just upgrading the parts on your bike. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I'm about to go knock out a 22-ish mile easy ride. I'm actually going to ride like 8 miles to my parents' house, hang out with my parents for a little bit, ride 14 or so miles back to work because I work all day on Wednesdays. So I'm going to go see my parents for a minute, knock out a bike ride, and yeah, that pretty much wraps up the gear for the bike. If y'all are interested, I can do a more in-depth thing of what I've done to my bike, and the majority of stuff that I've done on my bike has been done fairly cheaply. Facebook Marketplace has been great. I bought both of my bikes off of Facebook Marketplace. I bought the shoes new, I bought the helmet new. Pretty much everything else that I've done to my bike, I have bought secondhand, and I've done a lot of the maintenance work myself. So if that's something that y'all are interested in, let me know and I can make a video in the future. But I'm gonna go knock out this bike ride, and yeah, I'll let you know how it goes after. The one thing that I forgot to mention about the bike, I don't know how I missed it, is a bike computer. This is not necessarily like a necessary item. However, you will find that having a bike computer throughout riding your bike is going to be extremely beneficial, especially if it has GPS, speed, cadence, all of those other things. I use this on every single ride. I can go in, I can build routes. That way I don't get lost. You can go in and just do a free ride and track your statistics and what routes you do take. It's not necessary. Your watch can do a lot of the things, but if you want something that's really easy to look at, rather than having to do this while you're on your bike all the time, invest in a bike computer. Also bought this on Facebook Marketplace for an extremely good deal. This is the Wahoo Element Bolt V2. I like it. I wish it was Garmin so that it just incorporated with all of my stuff that I currently have. However, I make do with it. Get yourself a bike computer. Just wrapped up my easy ride. I did 6.75 miles to my parents' house, averaged 229 watts on that. Hung out with them for a little while, just caught up with the family. Then I rode 15 miles back to my car, 233 watts averaged on that. Overall, went fantastic, and that is gonna be a wrap on Wednesday. And from here, I'm gonna go talk a little bit about the gear that I use that is race specific for me. It's definitely stuff that isn't necessary, but if you're looking to achieve like a high goal for yourself or within the race, it could be very helpful. Last but not least, I'm gonna hit on the gear that I use on race day. These are things that definitely aren't necessary. You can get away with doing triathlons or training for biking, running, swimming without these things. However, these things can potentially make a difference on race day. So I'm gonna show you what I choose to use. First up is the thing that if you're gonna be doing triathlons, you probably need to get one anyways. It is a tri-suit. This is the Roka tri-suit. I have worn it for a handful of my brick workouts. I wore it in Chattanooga. Absolutely love this thing. It is built to swim, bike, and run in it. So it is a very compression fit for aerodynamics on the bike and the run, as well as it has a pad in the back for the bike. It repels water, it is quick drying, it is aero, like I said. If you're doing triathlons, get you a tri-suit. I like Roka. There are also some cheaper options out there. I bought this one because I like the way it looks better than most of the other ones. So that is my tri-suit. Next up is not necessarily only a race day item. However, you can get away with training the swim without a wetsuit. So this is my wetsuit. It is an Xterra wetsuit, which is one of the most budget-friendly entry-level wetsuits you can have. I bought this used on Facebook Marketplace. What this does is it allows you to, number one, swim in cooler water without getting too cold. However, it also provides a ton of buoyancy in your legs while you swim, so your legs actually don't have to work as hard to swim for the same pace that you would, say, in a non-wetsuit open water swim. I love swimming in my wetsuit. It is way too hot to swim in the wetsuit right now, which is why I've just been swimming in swim jammers. However, some races you will be required to wear a wetsuit if it's cold enough. And if the wetsuit is legal in a race, it will save you some time on the swim. Next thing I'm gonna hit on is my race day helmet for my TT bike. This is one of those things that if you are not really chasing a time goal or really speed, like if you have a road bike, I don't see any reason why you would need a TT helmet. However, I have a TT bike and I do think that I'm capable of doing pretty well in the sport and being competitive in that term. So I bought this before Chattanooga. This is the Giro Arrowhead. I really like it. It's real comfortable. The airflow is not that great in it, so it is kind of hot. However, this is really only worn on my long brick rides, right up close to race, and on race day. So TT helmet saves you a couple watts on the bikes, helps your aerodynamic profile. As you're biking, it helps improve that, but this is definitely not something that you have to race. And then last but not least is my Alpha Flies. I mentioned this in the running segment. These are my race day shoes, and that is pretty much all that I wear these for. I will do 1 or 2 runs prior to the race just to get comfortable in them. However, these shoes are reserved for race day. Like I said, in the running section, I did a half marathon and a full marathon in the Zoom Flies, which I absolutely love those shoes, and especially now I'm using them on the track. I really like them. But these shoes, they're fragile. They don't last as long as other shoes do. So I really only bring these out on race day or just really close to race day to get used to them. They are carbon plated. They add a little pep in your step, so to say. They also take some of the work out of your calf when running. So a race day shoe isn't necessary. However, if you are running fast enough to be able to utilize the benefits of them, it is a nice thing to have. And so that's gonna be a wrap on this video. I really appreciate y'all watching. I hope that some of the things that I showed you are helpful, especially if you're a new athlete trying to get into the sport. I've learned a lot over the past 1.5 years of training for running, biking, and swimming. So I hope it was helpful. And like always, if you wouldn't mind, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And if you're interested in high strips, nose strips, you can use the link in my bio or code Barton. I appreciate it.